Welcome back to Kempton, our final race is Fillies Handicap, and I'm really interested to see Warren Fenterman, who is jocked up on Kinetic for James Owen. Not lost on anyone that James Owen unearthed a talented apprentice last year in Sean D. Bowen, and Warren Fenterman's having his first ride for James Owen tonight here on Kinetic. And Warren, who had a first ride earlier today in the apprentice race, was second, and he's hung around for this. And Kinetic has been supported now about just joint favourite with Always Waving. Kinetic's an interesting one. Got the visor on for the first time. She ran well at Southall on her penultimate start, but didn't really re-show that at Lingfield on the most recent run. And she was 20-1 last time out, but she's been well supported here today. Warren taking that extra 7 off, so we'll see how she gets on here in this lineup, and be interested to see how Warren elects to ride her as well. Not exactly sure of her optimums, but as I said, the betting is eye-catching here for her. Next we can see number 6. This is Tiptoe for Dave Simcock and Hayley Turner, and she is a lightly raced filly. She won on her second start back in October 2023, only the 2 starts since then. She's quite tricky to assess in this field. Next one we can see just coming around here. The rugs has come off and it's just momentarily flipped up the saddle cloth, but I can see it's number 2, Sid's Annie. This horse has got a good chance, and Mark Usher and Charlie Bishop. She's on a much reduced mark nowadays of 66, which should make her competitive. Her last win came off 73 back in August 2023. She's had a long time off the track from December 23 to November 24, so I think she might be just coming back to her best, and her last run was slightly more encouraging than the run before, so you can't put anyone off her. Then we see Shady Bay for Tom Ward and Sean Levy, got the tongue tie fitted for the first time. She took advantage of her opening handicap mark to win at Southall in October. That looked encouraging, but she hasn't really re-shown that in 2 starts since, so let's see how this tongue tie might suit her, because she's obviously had an issue with her wind. Then we've got number 3, Always Waving, hoping to give Andrew Balding and Oisin Murphy the 3 winners tonight. And this filly's just the 5th start for her. She won her novice on her 3rd start, and her opening mark of 68 looked reasonable enough at Southall in January. Kinetic was actually ahead of her that day. She's down £2, but we still don't know a huge amount about her, so interesting to see how she gets on. Then we've got Last Empress. Ross Ryan's looking for another winner. This horse for Davin Manuzia. She's looking to break her maiden tag. She's just had having her 3rd run for this team. She'll need to do a lot better than the run last time out. She's the bottom rated of 61, but she hasn't gone completely unfancied in the betting. Then we got Storm Valley. This horse is definitely of interest, coming back off 275-day break. She won well at Windsor in May of last year. She's got plenty of ability, you have to think, and she is also a winner over course and distance. We'll see if she can go well fresh. She has done in the past before, but this is a good little Fillies handicap to end off our card here at Kempton, so I'll be keen to know the thoughts of the team back in the studio.
As would I, Jess. Try Unibet's new Smart View race card Fillies handicap. Middle distance qualifier for the London Series 5-2 the field. Kinetic Always Waving. Sid's Annie 6-1 with Last Empress. Storm Valley 7-1. Shady Bay 9-1, and Tiptoe the 22-1 outsiders. Only 7 declared. Each way places just the 2. And 2 very different profiled horses at the top of the betting. George Baker, your thoughts?
Well, Kinetic and Always Waving are closely intertwined with that run when we last saw Always Waving, and that was the first start in a handicap, and probably just wasn't as well positioned as Kinetic. It's interesting that James Owen's switching the cheap pieces to the visor for the first time and employing the services of Warren Fenterman, who's a very capable £7 claimer. I think if Storm Valley was trained by a more fashionable trainer, it would be favourite in this race. It was a monster performance. It only had a handful of starts for Matt Crawley after having a long layoff, and before that was with Andrew Balding. It was heavy ground at Windsor, and it was only off a mark of 55, but it absolutely hacked. I watched a replay back this morning, travelled around really strongly, is tactically pretty versatile, likes to be forwardly placed just behind the leaders or mid-pack. And in a race, again, there's no confirmed pace. I would have thought Callum Shepherd would just go forward from stall 3. And I just thought this horse represents the value in the race, really.
Yeah, for a trainer that certainly has his a share of Kempton winners as well in Matt Crawley. 15-2, if you fancy Storm Valley. Kinetic, she's well handicapped on what we've seen last time. She's, only a pound above her last winning mark. What have you made of her in recent starts, Rachel?
To me, she hasn't been that strong of a finisher in the finish. So potentially dropping from a mile and 2 at Lingfield, a mile and a half in Lingfield to a mile and 3 at Kempton. Also, the finishes at Lingfield tend to be a little bit more frenetic, a little bit quicker because sharp turn, you're down a hill, slingshot to a stretch, whereas at Kempton things might be a little bit slower. 2 starts ago when she was at Southwell, similar to track configuration, just the other way around, finished second. We know Ovi's Waving was in 4th, but last time was really disappointing, and they're switching out the cheek pieces for the visor. So those are going to have to work. She does seem really quite on her toes. She sort of jig-jogged coming out onto the track. Warren Fentiman just sort of overpitched in one direction because the horse went the other way, caught himself, and she's sort of attacking her warm-up a bit more. So maybe the headgear switch has done mentally something for her. If that's the case, she might push up and be a little bit closer to, like George said, I mean, Storm Valley is really the only horse in here that I've seen that really wants to go forward, and Caleb might have watched some of the other races with a Sheen, been in behind and just gone, yeah, let's try and do that.
We will see. 5-2 joints at the moment. Kinetic always waving. Sid Zani, a winner here is a 3-year-old over a mile. Generally tackles further these days. What do you make of the test in store for her, George?
Well, we've only seen her 3 times after a long layoff, and it was much better at Wolverhampton. She's an habitual slow starter and takes a long time to warm into it. She hasn't won since 2023, but that was off a mark of 73. She's 66 now. And the last one was an indication that she's warm into form and it's much better. But the reason why I didn't really side with her, because I thought she's about ready to win, is I just don't think the setup of the race is going to suit. And I'm sure Charlie Bishop will be just keen to go and try and get a good pitch from stall 6, but she's always slowly out the stalls, which always puts you on the back foot here over the mile 3.
And if you're of a forgiving nature, which I guess to some extent you usually have to be in this grade and below, Rachel, Last Empress does make appeal given what she's achieved at Kempton so far.
Yeah, I mean, she's an 0-for-6 maiden. She's been to Kempton 3 times. If you ignore her second run when she was just pretty much last, but that was behind Friendly Soul, so it was, one horse race. She's been 3rd and 4th in it, and 4th over course and distance 2 starts ago when she switched from the Vardravarian yard to the David Monicia yard. The problem is that run at Southwell last time out, I mean, she was hanging all over the piste, and I can't forgive her that. I mean, there's more solidity in the form with some of the others, your likes of You're Always Waving and Storm Valleys.
Yep, 6-1, Last Empress to bounce back from that southern run at a place that she's gone well at in the past. It is 5-2 joints. Yes, it is. Kinetic, Always Waving. Still solid at the top, Jess. 5-2 joints for the finale.
Yeah, difficult to really work this race out. 5-2 for Kinetic is short enough for a horse that is probably inconsistent at best. She's a horse that they've tried over hurdles and they've brought back to the flat. She ran well, as we note, at Southwell in the middle part of January. And we'll see if this visor could be the making of her. Sid Zani has had a pretty truncated career and she's probably coming back to some way of her best, but I would be completely against the thoughts that George said there of Storm Valley, as she's a horse that Matt Crawley's done really well with. She's obviously had a long time off the track as well, so she's going to have to be at her best fresh, but she's a course and distance winner, and she has done well fresh in the past. So she comes out of stall 3 with Callum Bahrain Shepherd on board. He's doing very well over that. Let's see how they'll go. They'll set for the last.
Restrained out of the gates was Sid's Annie, the early back marker, away well Shady Bay to take them through the first couple of 100 yards. Shady Bay and Sean Levy to the front. But now coming forward is Last Empress to come and join her at the first bend, and tight in behind those, the likes of Kinetic and Always Waving. Tiptoe is next, Storm Valley 1 from the rear, and last of all is Sid's Annie. They swing round right-handed towards the far side of the course in this Tri-Unibet's new Smart View race cards fillies handicap, and Shady Bay, Sean Levy continue to show with a length lead over Last Empress in second position. Sitting a close third is Always Waving. Only a half a length back in fourth comes Kinetic. A length and a half break then to Tiptoe, and then 3 parts of a length further back to Sid's Annie, and 1.5 lengths further back Storm Valley is the back marker, last of the 7, as Shady Bay continues to lead the field. They come past the 6 furlong marker. Shady Bay with the lead, 2 clear now to Last Empress in second place. Always Waving is in third with Kinetic next. Tiptoe is into 5th ahead of Sid's Annie. Back marker is Storm Valley. The turn out of the back is now on. So they're approaching the 4 furlong marker. And as they race there, the lead is continuing with Shady Bay. Shady Bay by a length and a half to 2 lengths over Last Empress in second. Kinetic and Always Waving 3 and 4. Sid's Annie in 5. Tiptoe 6 and 7th and last Storm Valley turning for home. Then inside the final 3 furlongs they come. Shady Bay attempting to make all of the running. Last Empress driven along in second. Kinetic likewise, followed then by Always Waving. Troubled passage in behind for Sid's Annie, who has to switch between runners, but is getting up ahead of steam as they now race on to the final furlong. And just outside it, Shady Bay can hear Sid's Annie coming strongly, and Kinetic and Sid's Annie have now gone on. Shady Bay backpedals, the others not getting involved. Up front, Sid's Annie still just in front from Kinetic. Sid's Annie from Kinetic. Kinetic, one last thrust. Don't think it was quite good enough. We'll leave it to the judge. Sid's Annie and Kinetic. And they were comfortably clear from Always Waving and Shady Bay.
Well, they were sharing the top of the betting, and they're going to share the photo, but on that evidence, Sid's Annie has got the better of Kinetic, and they've drawn a long way to the third, Always Waving. But Sid's Annie has been called the winner, 9-2 for Charlie Bishop and Mark Usher. And they got into a bit of a battle, but it might have been unlucky if Sid's Annie hadn't got there, because there was a bit of a tricky old route through. You can see Charlie Bishop just here waiting to decide where he's going to go, and decided to go right around Always Waving, and he had to sort of smuggle his way through horses here, whereas Warren Fenterman on Kinetic was getting going here. But you can see Sid's Annie just got that high head carriage, and that's when this horse was able to go past the front running Shady Bay, whose effort just failed at this stage, and then they got racing Sid's Annie and Kinetic, and it did go the way of Sid's Annie, but things probably didn't fall as well as Charlie Bishop wanted them to, and she deserved that. As mentioned, she's not had things straightforward. She's obviously had a few issues and been off and on the track, but she was coming back into a good vein of form, and she's confirmed that here, just fending off Kinetic late on.
I'll remind you to hold all betting tickets until the outcome of the steward's inquiry is announced. There is a steward's inquiry. The steward's looking at